but I think that the challenge now is really listening to the customer. And so basically the way that I've been going about it is setting a sell up down the road, or setting myself up down the road. First, when I speak to a prospect and they say, I'm just trying to make payroll. I've laid half my staff off. We're operating at 50%, and I'm trying to make payroll. And so, and I tell them, I hear that. I definitely understand that. As I've already prefaced my call, like, I hope this call finds you safe and well. I come in very sensitive to the situation as it happens. But once they say that, my next statement is going to be, well, let me tell you what I have and how this could possibly help and how we can possibly make this work, which is a little different, in using, those words like possibly. Usually I would use something a lot more firm, but I've turned the sales opportunity into an opportunity to help them. I want them to know that I do have something that can help you to manage, through this time. If it makes sense, let's, make it work for you. So that's been one, tactic or strategy that I've used, is to kind of slow it down and just say, this is what our annual rate is. So let's just talk, maybe we can't do annual. Maybe we have to do, short term. But what I have is an audience that you can reach, and I always let them know I have an audience. And what you need is customers. And then we get into, we get into a finance,
Sure.
conversation, or ROI, a return on investment. What do you need from this advertising to make it, pay for itself? And then if that makes sense, then we move on. Otherwise, I always leave the door open and just let them know, if it's okay, can I reach out to you maybe in 2 months,
Sure.
3 months. I remember when this first happened, a lot of customers were saying, "Oh, reach out to me, here in April."
Yeah.
This should
Nobody
all be over,
knew.
and
Yeah,
and
we didn't know it was going to be 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, or never know that we wouldn't be able to get back to our normal way of life or what we knew was normal.
Right. And so, I remember in April going through a plethora of appointments of people saying, call me back in April when everything's back open. And I just kind of left in April. Before I knew it, it was June here in Michigan, before we were, starting to think about reopening. So, so again, just talking to customers and letting them know that I have options, and then keeping that door open, and not being, in my sales strategy, I don't want to, close the door or cut them off.
Sure.
So I'm very sensitive, and I do let them know before you rush me off the phone, because I do have something that can help you. I don't want you to push me off the phone before you hear how I can help you in this situation. Then if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, but I still have, I left the door open so I can come back. And since I say June or July, I've returned to many of those customers, and I've been able to help them, and help them reach a target audience. So, and then the next thing is going to do is make the call. Bev, I know that's one thing I always say is the favorite thing I hear you saying in my head over and over. Pick up the phone, make the call.
Yeah.
And now we're tripling. My goal was always to make 100 calls a day. Whether I got to that or I didn't, that was my goal. Now that has almost doubled, and it's, making close to 200 contacts, new contacts a day. But you have to do what it takes. And my next thing would say is to overcome your fears. Don't be afraid of what you might hear when they pick up the phone based off of what's going on in your mind. Don't make an objection for them before you even call them. Oh, this is a restaurant. They're probably only a half staff. They probably don't want to hear from me. Maybe I won't call them. Pick up the phone, make the call, have the conversation. And if that's what it is, let them tell you that. Don't you tell yourself that, and don't get caught up. Maybe you've called 5 restaurants in a row, and that's what all 5 restaurants said. Call that 6th restaurant. Call the 7th restaurant. call the A's restaurant, because it only takes one call to turn the day around to make the sale. So,
well, I love every single thing that you said, and I think that anybody listening can benefit from that if they're, especially if they're looking to be refreshed, renewed, restart, because they're, getting bogged down by some of these things. But you said so many good points. And one of them is, prior to March, any salesperson, you talked about, I call it building your own call reluctance, in that you're already assuming the negative. You're already assuming they're not going to move forward with you. You're already thinking, because you're driving up the street and you're like, damn, I love that restaurant. It's closed. So I get that. And I get that that's out there. One of the things that was successful, somebody called me. They asked me for my help on something. I shared that with them, and then I followed up with them and asked them if it worked. And they said yes. Every time we pick up the phone, every single time, we are expecting one of two things to happen: a no, or yeah, I've been waiting for you to call, Tim. I'll take ads and all this stuff. And, there's just a couple of things that we need to have happen. This situation with COVID and the closing of businesses and reopening of businesses and the struggles and the revamping. If you are a restaurant and you opened up, you got to readjust your entire floor plan and how your employees are interacting with one another, and, wearing masks and sweating, and it's just so much is involved. But I love the other thing that you said about empathy. So empathy is kind of like the new kitschy word that goes along with unprecedented. But if done sincerely, look, Tim, you are a businessman. Salespeople are business people. Your business was rocked. Your business was shut down. So when we make a phone call to introduce the product and service as an advertising person, salesperson, to promote their business, you're not just some cheesy, advertising sales guy. You really want to help that business, and that's why I'm calling you. So instead of that expecting the no or expecting the yes, I've been waiting to do this and I want to spend $20,000 in advertising, it becomes this entirely different conversation. And you come alongside of them as a business person, and you simply say to them, look, I get it. I mean, every time I pick up this phone and call a business, I know that it's going to be a tough sales call for me, because my business is to help businesses get their name out there. And that's been shut down. So myself, as an advertising salesperson, where in January this conversation would be completely different. Maybe you just want to call them to talk. And the next thing you know, if you're offering up just to have a conversation with them about business, suddenly you're learning more about them, which is high quality information. You learn what their plans are. And then when you start talking to them, so if, let's just say, Tim, I called you and you're a restaurant, and they're like, are you out of your mind? I can't afford to advertise. I know. Most people can't. They can't. But that doesn't make me stop trying to help you promote your business. And that's why I'm calling you. So,
exactly.
Letting them know, and then they go, that, if you say that to someone, that's the first phone call they've had in a long time that sounded like that was somebody trying to sell them something. Because remember this, all these businesses that are falling flat, or all these businesses that are struggling, who do you think is calling them every day? Insurance, financial planning. Let us get you out of this. All of these other calls are coming through to these businesses because they think it's an opportunity. Well, they're desperate. Their business is closing. They must need me. They must need this. They must need that. You calling them with, as a, just taking this as advertising sales professionals, letting them know, hey, I care. And that's why, because I think this is a great opportunity for you to A, let people know you're still out there. B, let them know you're doing curbside. Let them know your restaurant's open. Or plumbing are just because of COVID doesn't mean people's pipes aren't bursting. And
right.
People need the comfort of knowing that. But he still might be in a situation where he's having to cut down, or he can't get into homes, or they got to mask up, or whatever. That's why I called you. I wanted to learn more. How are you handling this? Totally void and exempt from selling an ad. And the next thing you know, you're asking them about their business, what they're doing, how they're doing it. Well, how are you getting new customers through this mess? I have a really inexpensive way of you doing that. And so it's a brand new objective, and it's a completely different way of approaching sales. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but and you're hitting all the right points. It's definitely a different approach, and I like what you said. Basically, you're instead of asking for service, you're asking, how can I help? Because I can help you. This is the way I can help. But which of these, avenues can help you?
Sure.
As opposed to, hey, buy this product or advertise with us, do this, push your name out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's been more of, let me help you, and that's why I say don't necessarily let that first, I can't do anything right now, push you off the phone. Yeah, slow down. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you can.
and they're going to tell you everything. They're going to open all these pain points. That's, not even sounding like you can take advantage of those pain points, but it's going to help you sell the product. And that's one thing I love about what I sell, is because no matter who I sell, when I sell, I never feel, at 1 ounce of badness for making a sale to someone when it's advertising their business.
Yep.
What I just did, I just helped them, and every night when we sell, I go to sleep, no stress, I push this person into a, old clunker car, nothing
exactly.
like that. I'm
yeah.
Everything, yeah. And so what I'm doing is helping them. So when someone says that it might be tough, it might be tight, and I'm like, we got to make a business decision here. You need people to fill these chairs. I have people to fill those chairs. And, again, advertising, you can't promise them it works, but I always suggest that every person in sales has a success story that they can shoot right off their tongue as soon as someone says, but what about this, or what about this? And you come back with a success story. I worked with Jim at Jim's Plumbing.
Yeah.
His business was, on the rocks. He was afraid to spend this money. We put this ad together, and blah, 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 or have
Yep.
that. And I have so many personal success stories that are true stories, of people that one ad, turned it around, and now they want 16 ads. They want to blow this one ad up, because it works and it does help. And so I think that's, again, the key with working with people right now, is just letting them know how they can help, and showing that that humanity and that empathy, like you said, because that next time you make that call, whether the first call didn't end in the way that you thought as a success with the closing sale, the next time you give them a call, they're going to be like, oh, it's Tim. I remember, we had a great conversation.
Yes.
Things are turning up. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And not just like, oh, it's this guy who wants my money. So
there's not really, and that was perfectly said, there's not really any way to say this. If you're in sales, you're selling something. And people are like, sell, oh, what, that's such a bad word.